1st of January 1540. Alleged minger Anne of Cleves arrives in England to meet her fiancé Henry Ville, otherwise known as Henry VIII. Keen to run her through so much she'd end up resembling a butcher's bin, he decided to disguise himself and meet her at Rochester Castle before the actual wedding. He believed that if Anne recognised him despite the costume, it would signify, true love or some shite. So, after Henry VIII burst into Anne's room with 5 of his mates, the next thing Anne knew was that some podgy bugger had his tongue down her throat. It was reported that she actually said, "Oh, thanks for putting your slaver all over my chops. That's actually really kind. But unfortunately, I don't really get with randoms because I'm engaged and all that. But all the best, though, is she didn't recognise Henna's." Absolutely mortifying for Henry. He then proceeded to declare her butters anyway, who looked nothing like her portrait. But when it came to choosing his next conquest, Henry hadn't just relied on his ambassador's word. He had sent his court painter Hans Holbein to create a portrait of Anne in 1539, and Holbein must have nailed it, as Henry's ambassador in Cleves raved about how lifelike the portrait was. Even after Henry and Anne annulled their marriage, Holbein stayed in the king's good graces, so it sounds like maybe Henry was telling porky pies. 2nd of January 1890. Alice Sanger proves that girlies can do more than mop floors and open their legs. She becomes the first female staffer in the White House as an assistant secretary to President Benjamin Harrison. She shattered that glass ceiling and then probably polished it a bit from underneath, as she is a woman. Around the same time, in 1890, the American Women's Suffrage Association and the National Women's Suffrage Association merged into the National American Women's Suffrage Association. Bloody hell, that is a mouthful. But what did Alice actually think of the suffrage movement? Was she a token hire by Harrison who could go, look, diversity? Though Sanger's stance on suffrage is unclear, her appointment by Harrison indicated a cautious step towards increasing female representation in government. 3rd of January 1987. Aretha Franklin becomes the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that's because, before 1987, women didn't exist. But from 1987, they appeared out of the sky, and men were astounded. Whomst are these creatures? How are they so good at making my dinner? But it's a shame none of them can drive. They then realised that not all of them had a sole purpose of making shepherd's pie, and some could even sing. That's actually, really good, they thought. So maybe let's put one woman in the Hall of Fame for doing an alright job, but not all of them though. You don't want to push it and give them thoughts and ambition, so we'll just stick to one. And thus Aretha Franklin was immortalised. 4th of January 1656. Sharks are wined, dined, and probably 69'd. The Spanish ship Nuestra Señora de las Maravillas, I'm sorry for butchering that, sank, which carried about 600 people on board, only 45 of whom survived. The ship contained lots of jewellery and treasures, both as royal tax and private property, and was making its way to Seville. But because some pillock messed up its navigational route, the ship collided with another and then smacked into a coral reef and sank. People weren't stressed though, because they'd watched the Titanic and they knew all you had to do was lie on floating debris and hold some Pavo's hand, telling them, oh, I won't let go. But as soon as they die, they're absolutely getting hoisted back into the ocean. But this time, DIY Titanic didn't really make the cut, so most died from exposure or became a morsel on the menu for the shark buffet.